You are listening to the US of NA by Nation Beer, a series of stories about the people and places from every corner of the country who are helping fuel the NA beer movement. If you like this episode, please add us to your library in Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen. For more great NA stories, including our many beer reviews, visit nationbeer.com. Are you a non-alcoholic beverage brand looking for help with growth? Then go to nation.beer to learn more about our digital marketing services. Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. I'm John Eggleton, your host and chief optimist for Nation Beer. This episode that you're about to listen to is the third in a series of in-person interviews we've done this summer, which also includes visits to Generation NA in Lafayette, Indiana, and Go Brewing in suburban Chicago. It's also a really good one. We interviewed arguably both of the pioneers of the NA scene in Pittsburgh, who have formed what we think is a really unique partnership in the space. Two Phrase Brewery, owned by the husband and wife team of Jen and Mike Onifray, have developed a great local partnership with Mel Babitz, owner of the first non-alcoholic bottle shop in the city called Open Road Bar. Their ongoing collaboration is called Mod Mondays, which could be a blueprint not only for the NA movement to grow nationally, but also for neighborhood breweries like Two Phrase to expand their customer base and open new revenue streams. I'll let them explain during our interview, but essentially it's held the first Monday of every month and features an all NA taproom experience on what is traditionally a slow day of the week for most brewery taprooms. Collaborations don't stop there. They both are well connected to the LGBTQ community in the city and have worked together on events such as a Dry Pride event earlier in June. We had so much to talk about, we forgot to mention they've also collaborated on an NA beer called Martian Birthday, which is a red IPA-style brew. In our talk, they each share some interesting data points. Mike about the percentage of revenue that comes from NA for them, and Mel sharing some info on who is coming into Open Road Bar, which includes at least one demographic group that may surprise you. So some really great stuff that's happening in this Rust Belt city that is known for its three converging rivers, its beautiful bridges, and now more recently, perhaps a growing NA scene that the rest of the country can learn something from. Hope you enjoy the episode. All right, so I'm here with Mike Onifray, who along with his wife Jen are the owners of Pittsburgh's Two Phrase Brewery, which we're sitting in right now on a beautiful day in late June. Since its opening in 2020, it's quickly become a staple here in the Garfield community of the city, and I'll let Mike talk about their opening during a COVID year and the adjusted timeline there. Mel Babitz started as a pop-up bar here in Pittsburgh in early 2020, later opening the brick-and-mortar storefront in 2022. It's located in the Allentown neighborhood, just south of downtown Pittsburgh. I'm going to let both of them share their own founder stories here in a moment, but first, it's great to be here in the Burgh. And Mike and Mel, welcome to the US of NA.
Thanks so much for being here today.
Awesome. Well, I live in Atlanta now, as we were talking about beforehand, although I'm originally from Cleveland. So I feel like I should make an obligatory Browns joke, but I think the joke would be on me, at least for the last 30 years or so. But no, in all seriousness, Pittsburgh is an amazing city. I mean, it's a beautiful city with the rivers, and I always enjoy coming out here. So it's great to be here in person. So the reason we wanted to talk to you both specifically is due to, I think, a pretty unique partnership that you guys have. We were at Generation NA. Rob there in Lafayette was sharing that he has partnerships with some local breweries in that area, and you guys partnering here together with, traditional brewery working with an NA bottle shop, which is still pretty unique in the category. So I want to dive into that a little bit. But first, I'd love to hear more about how each of you got started in your respective businesses. And since we're sitting here at Two Phrase, Mike, I'll let you get started.
Sure, yeah. So I left my professional engineering job back in 2015 to really recreate a career in beer. Between Jennifer and I, her career eventually took us to Nashville, where I worked as a professional brewer. And living in the Germantown neighborhood of Nashville really created for us an environment that we really enjoyed, like a walking neighborhood where we could take our dog, have a snack at night outside, and have a beer outside. And then as we kind of talked about our futures, we said, well, we should start our own brewery, our own business, which we both enjoyed beer, and we thought we could do a good job at it. So we decided that we should start a brewery and recreate that environment that we had in Germantown. Create a brewery, small brewery space that has an outside space. It's in a walking neighborhood, dog friendly, maybe some food around us, And so we kind of created a business plan around what we learned or what we experienced in Germantown in Nashville. And then when we were exploring where to put this brewery, because we've moved around so many places in the last, we'd been together at that point for 15 years. We'd moved around to many, many places. And, the question was, if we do this brewery, where are we going to do it? The long story short of it is, I grew up in the suburbs of Pittsburgh here, went to school in town, and the business plan that we wrote really fits what is Pittsburgh, friendly environment, walking neighborhood brewery. This is the city of neighborhoods, relatively low cost of entry to get into, friendly. The people here are friendlier than most cities that we'd lived in. And so it just kind of fits. That brought us back to Pittsburgh. We found this building in 2019, give or take, purchased the building in October with a plan to open the brewery. So this building, for those who can't see because of the magic of podcasting, we have bought a building with a lot outside that fits the business plan that we had in our heads, which was a tap room up front with a small 7-barrel brewery in the back. So that you're in a brewery, you're not just in a tap room, we're not just in a bar. This is a brewery, and you can see it, you can smell it, you can hear it. And then we have a great outside space beside it. And that's, for anybody who's in Pittsburgh, we drink outside no matter what is the weather. So we've created what was in our heads in this location. So when we found the building and this spot, it took a little bit of work, but we knew that we had what we were looking for. And then COVID happened. And we had to wait about 9 months before we could really start construction because of all of the delays. And then, so we did not open as planned in 2020, but we were able to open May, June 2021 to a mostly somewhat normal world, to a community that really appreciated having us open at that time because everybody really needed to get outside, really get out and socialize, have a beer. And we would have done okay without COVID, of course. We would have done better without COVID. COVID was an awful thing. But yeah, we got a lot lucky in the timeline of when we were ready to be open. People were ready to have a beer.
Right.
Yeah, that's our story.
That's great.
Happy 3rd birthday.
Thanks. You too. Well, you're 4.
4.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's our half birthday, normal.
You're past the toddler stage.
Yeah. We're still toddlers. Thanks. We get to be immature a little bit.
That's right. Always.
Super serious over here.
I can tell.
Yeah, we try to be like you, all professional and stuff. That's our goal. So anyway, Mel, how'd you get started?
So the Open Road launched January 2020 as a dry January pop-up bar downtown. It was in the works and planning for several years prior to that. The original model was to do pop-ups for a few months while we found a place and, then eventually opened the bar with like takeout to-go options. But also this was January 2020, so the non-alcoholic industry didn't exist yet. It was in baby stages, right? There were like 5 brands and we had all 5 of them at our event. I was the first carrier for brands like Ritual and the first Pennsylvania carrier for anything. We were the first one for Monday too. They launched during our we kickstarted them and they launched during our dry January. Anyway, so we originally launched as a dry January pop-up bar. We did that for a month. It was great. Had several other pop-up events planned in 2020 that obviously things changed. None of those happened. But I didn't have anything like a lease or staff or any of those things that would have become really large hurdles that probably would have just killed it. Anyway, so 2020, it became just me, and I was an online retailer for the next about year and a half. Ran out a storage unit, did shipping nationally, did local delivery. I knew every one of my customers and exactly where they were in the city, and I got to know them in their driveways because 2020, 2021, which was great. And then I had a pop-up bottle shop inside of a coffee shop for about 6 months. And then we found our current storefront location over in Allentown neighborhood. Just for clarity, in Pennsylvania, there's Allentown, PA on the other side of the state. There's Allentown, the neighborhood of Pittsburgh. We're in the one here. And we've been there for just over 2 years now. It's a storefront. It's about 500 square feet. And we are actually going to be relocating later this year over to the same end of town, or Two Phrases, with an expanded storefront and eventually an on-premise as well.
some great synergy having, you'll both be on the same or in the same neighborhood, I'm sure will be nice for some of those collaborations that you have. Which leads me to my next question. So how did you guys get started in that? I mean, you both formed around the same period of time, both around COVID or just coming out of COVID. So how did that first come about?
Like I said, I had been in planning. I used to have business partners before the actual business launched. We were planning since about 2018. But it comes from a place of I can't digest alcohol, but still wanted to have all the social, activities of being with people and going out and having things to drink. Of course, everything that we're talking about in the current NA landscape really was not part of the conversation yet.
Right.
So it looked very different. The entire menu model was completely different at the time. And yeah, it just comes from a place of wanting options for people who can't or are choosing not to, for whatever reason, have alcohol at that moment. And now it's, as a bottle shop with over 400 things on our shelves, it's very much just about bringing options to the area.
Sure.
And trying to go for local options, which is where we kind of, when we opened this place with the mindset of, and some of the glasses say something for everyone, a mindset of bringing product that so when anybody who walks through the doors, we should be able to find something that they're going to enjoy. And we had customers who needed or wanted or needed non-alcoholic. And again, this was at a time when we were hearing these things, we're like, I don't know how to make that. But from our point of view, we have a community-focused mindset. We want to have a product that can be available, and we try to go as local as possible, in which if we can't buy it locally, then we should probably make it. We just sat down and said, we'd figure it out. Back in the day, our first batch was a 1% beer. Like, we didn't quite get it. But as we started to get better and better, we started communicating with you a lot more, because you're the center of the world, the center of Pittsburgh, at least, on non-alcoholic. And we didn't know how to market this. We didn't know who to sell it to. Like, who is it even going to be worth it? And we're like, heck yes, it's going to be worth it. Especially because, like you said, more products on your shelf, and if you can go local. And we were trying, that's so I don't remember who reached out first. It was probably us, because like, please help us, Mel, please help us understand this market more, understand these customers more, because we're going to start to make something, and is it worth it? And then it's been good ever since. Yeah, it's been a good relationship.
I met Jen at a vendor market that we were both doing, I guess about 2 years ago now. And she mentioned that you were looking into the idea of doing an NA, and I screamed and jumped. The idea that someone in Pennsylvania, let alone someone in Pittsburgh, also someone who's super cool.
Lenny's. Jen can be.
She's cool.
Yeah, just Jen. Super, super exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was when we met Mel, I think we probably jump and scream too. We have an ally. We have somebody who we can consult, and someone who knows. And like we spoke about before we were recording, Mel knows her shit on this industry. Technically, customer-wise, the products and brands, yes, we got lucky that right down the street, someone was an expert was living down the street. So yeah, it was good. It's a good, easy partnership.
Yeah. Well,
and she's moving, and Mel's moving down the street, so this is gonna be great.
Yeah, outstanding. No,
celebration.
Sometimes it just takes a spark and a conversation, and
right.
Our theory is that that's how it's going to continue to take off around the country. It needs to be a conversation of, hey, how do I do this? What would my customers look like? What are they looking for? And I think as more of that starts to happen, we'll see more of the movement grow into more of the regional breweries and areas that, where you guys have gone. So that's great. So what was the very first time that you worked together? What was the first event or, I guess, collaboration that you put together?
The first event?
The first one we did, the first beer that you made was, you guys did it on your own, and then I read all the specs.
10%.
It wasn't a mess up. It was a first. It was a first round
swing,
and it was really popular. People liked it. It was a good gateway.
It wasn't non-alcoholic. It was a 1%.
Yeah.
We didn't quite hit our numbers, but
yeah. And then we probably started doing Mod Monday.
Yeah, the staff here at Two Phrase, I got a text message one night from our tapper manager Liz and our marketing manager Katie. Like, we have the best idea. And like, you can't just do this to me on a text message. Can we talk? Like, clearly this is a great, thing that they're trying to communicate, but it's a tease from them on their side. And they sat down, they were at a different brewery down the street. They were at Trace, and they said, we should do a non-alcoholic night when we're not open. Like, we're not open on Mondays, so let's just open up one Monday a month and sort of only non-alcoholic, and we'll bring in Mel to collaborate and partner with that. And so it came from them, and that's to this date, I think it's still the best idea that's come out of those two's heads. Not sarcasm. It was a really good idea to do a non-alcoholic. We shut down the brewery tap room. We become a tap room that's not completely non-alcoholic. You can't even get the alcoholic stuff to go. And so that was October.
I think so. Last October, it's either September or October last year. So Mod Monday is the first Monday of every month. We come over to Two Phrase, and it's an all NA night. Mm-hmm. It's their NA beers. They always have a mocktail on tap from a local distillery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then they also bulk out the NA menu with bottles and cans with cocktails and wines for me. And then I also do a little pop-up shop.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have food. And
we completely changed the tap room where the menu comes down. We redo the whole menu so that it's just hours of work, but it's only NA's on the board. We put up a different kind of the Mod Monday logo goes up on the board too. So
it's very inclusive and very friendly space for non-drinkers, regardless of reason.
Yeah, safe, protected. They can be confident in what they're buying, and people have come in tears. I mean, they've sat at our counter.
Happy tears.
Right. People have come in and sat at the counter, and then they say, "What do I do now?" We are bringing non-regulars into this brewery. That's absolutely what we're trying to do here is reach people of all backgrounds and all people to have them enjoy this space.
Right. No,
it's about this. Sorry to interrupt. It's not just about the beer. I mean, what this has created though is it's obviously not about the beer. It's not about alcohol. It's a social environment. It's a space where people can come. Like to your point, when you said, Malice, it's a space that people feel safe and included. Yeah.
No, it's such a great idea from a people perspective first.
Yeah.
But from a financial one too. I mean, just Mondays I'm sure, I'm not a brewery owner, but I can't imagine that's got to be a slower night of the week anyway. It's why a lot of breweries aren't open on a Monday. And so you have a sober night and you get a new crowd, a new type of customer, as well as maybe some of your regulars that need a day off, need to not drink that night.
Even some of the food vendors, people come for the food better and they'll enjoy it, and then it still tastes like beer, or it still tastes like a
whatever it is,
Jack and Coke, whatever. It doesn't have to be exclusively the non-drinking crowd. We bring people who drink beer in to drink alcoholic on a day off, to your point.
Yeah, well, it's a good point to mention. I didn't mention this earlier, but I am drinking a West Coast IPA NA that's on draft. I know the draft part is something that is still pretty rare. We've talked about that. Yeah, we'll get to that for sure. Which is very good. And as I told Mike, it's not because I'm just sitting across from him either, but it's a very well made. So it's another reason to come to the Burg here and check out what's happening. So speaking of events and collaborations, so we're in Pride Month, and I know you guys did a dry Pride event that was earlier this month, and we'd love to know just what was the impetus behind that, and obviously how things went. We saw the pictures; it looked like just an incredible event. So I'd love to hear more about that, how it got started. Is it going to become an annual thing?
I'm assuming this was another Liz and Katie brainstorm.
This was Liz and Katie brainstorm of, this place being the culture that we try to create, an inclusive space. We've done pretty well with the LGBTQ community, and we know that community needs space for either drinking or being dry drinking. Yeah, and so during Pride, we said, we did Mod Monday on the Monday, but then we did a Sunday dry Pride event, and we brought in a DJ. We had multiple DJs. We had some food, I think. So we made it kind of a party, but again, no alcohol. Crushed.
It did. It was slams all day. It was the first time that I've been here on a weekend, for a whole day on a weekend, and it was great. It was so busy.
Everybody had fun.
Was surprised in the best way at how high of a turnout we had.
Yeah, it was good. It was a Sunday.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Yeah, you want to talk about financials? I mean, it's worth it for us to make the beer. To make the beer is process intensive. Some of the ingredients are expensive, and then there's less ingredients of others. But it is worth it financially for us to do it. It is something that is helping our brand. Of course, there's always the brand management piece. But then you look at what that Sunday looked like, and it was good. It's worth it to reach out to this community who is looking for that. Those two communities, that combined community of dry LGBTQ. And it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was super fun. And I had a lot of my customers who either can't or don't usually make it out to Mod Monday who were super excited to be able to come to something here because it was on a Sunday, because it was at a time that they could. Also because it was a Pride event. Like, a lot of my customers came. It was their first time here.
Good.
And they were super excited about
Thank
it.
you.
And also in January of this year, instead of doing just the first Monday or the second Monday, because the first one was January 1st, which we were here, we did every Monday of January as Mod Monday.
Yeah.
And that was also excellent. It was great.
Great for brand on both sides, I think.
Yeah.
We had a great January. When everybody's kind of complaining about, please visit us in January, make a product or have a product that people want.
Right.
And they will come, right?
Yeah.
We had a pretty good January.
Yeah. How were your sales in January? Did you suffer like the breweries say that breweries suffer?
It's a slow month, but it could have been way, way worse. Yeah, the Mondays were good. And then we're getting way past your question, sorry. But like on a Wednesday, when it's dry January, that table, whatever table, the alcoholic beer, we have glassware with blue logos. And on the non-alcoholic stuff, the non-alcoholic beers, we serve it in, it's a pink logo. And so that's good for distinguishing everybody who knows at a table, they all know what they're drinking. It's also good for us because we can see what everybody's kind of doing and get a look and feel. And in January, it's the table has a mix of blue and pink glassware. So that means that people are coming here knowing that they can have non-alcoholic, and they're bringing their alcohol drinking friends. So they can all come to one place and everybody's happy kind of. So we also benefit because we have non-alcoholic. The people who drink alcoholic beer in January are still coming to us. So they're coming to us too. So it's financially a good thing to have this on.
No, I think that's a really good point. I think that's maybe the hidden impact of NA. That it's hard for a brewery to see. If you're serving an NA, you're going to get people who are coming in for that, and they're going to bring other people with them.
That's right.
And when you're talking about a group of friends, some may drink, some may not, where they're going to go is where they can both enjoy, and that's going to be a brewery like yours. So
yeah.
That's great. So you both have used the word inclusive a few times as we've been sitting here, and certainly the NA category, as you pointed out, it's an inclusive category to begin with. For people who don't want to drink either for that round of drinks or for a week or for dry January or for a year or forever, regardless of what that might look like for them. It definitely feels like, the LGBTQ community in particular is very much out in front, on the front edge of this. And so I'm just curious if you guys see that as well. And if so, what do you attribute that to?
Definitely something that is true. If you look at the owners of businesses in the NA space, I don't have the actual data, but I would say at least half, if not more, are in the LGBTQ community, myself included. I think there are a lot of factors there. One, because it's a non-traditional industry. It's seeing a lot more non-traditional business owners. Also, sort of on the different end of things, the LGBTQ community has a higher rate of substance abuse, regardless of substance. So for the people who are coming from the I no longer drink because of past behaviors side of things, I think that's one factor. Because historically, the safe space for the queer community was bars. And obviously, alcohol would go with that. So that's a historical aspect of it. I think there's so many factors. Also a safety piece. That was the historical safe space, but also was it? Once you leave the building? So just a higher rate of having to be present in your surroundings, just for like safety reasons, would be another reason why I think more LGBTQ people are choosing not to drink.
Yeah, and I don't know what I can add coming from the straight white male side of the fence. The word inclusive is part of. It's on all of our code of conducts that we hang on the wall here for people to see. The house rules. Be nice or leave kind of a thing. Yeah, just treat people like a human.
Sure.
Be nice to people. That has organically brought us a lot of nice people, including a lot of nice customers. I don't know, I want to say it. Like, just coming from the straight white male side, just treating people kindly has welcomed that LGBTQ community here. And yeah, offering non-alcoholic is part of that.
So kind of shift back. So you were talking about draft beer a little bit earlier in the economics. And, one of the things that we've heard when we've talked with other breweries, whether they're serving or making an NA or not, or just thinking about it, a lot of them mention, the economics are challenging. It's a more, you hear things like it's more expensive to make, meaning it has lower margins when you sell it. I think there's a perception it's not going to move as fast, which maybe in some cases that's true. Maybe it wouldn't be in others. So I'm just curious, how have you guys found that to be? I mean, as we sit here, you have an NA on draft, which I'm assuming is a pretty regular thing to have, at least having one there, and you have others that are available in cans as well. So how, I guess from a financial, that perspective, economic impact, how has that looked like for your brewery?
Sure. From our side, non-alcoholic is somewhere between 5 and 10% of our revenue, which, when we look at non-alcoholic here, like we're an alcohol brewery that wants, and part of what we want to offer is, I think, again, there's something for everything aspect of, there's an IPA, there's a Pilsner up there, there's an NA up on the board. And that's just part of the offerings. That's what we're trying to do. If we could make more, if we had more capacity to or time in the schedule to make more non-alcoholic, we could sell it. We are not, because we're the only brewery in Pennsylvania making non-alcoholic, there's a pretty good demand for it. We have draft here, but we don't sell draft anywhere else. I mean, we keep our lines clean. That keg downstairs is not pasteurized, but the cans are. When we talk about economics, the yeast is a little bit expensive, but the grain bill is much less. Hops or fruit or whatever we're doing is sort of the normal price. So from a point of view of the cost of goods sold, it's not much different, let's say, from normal beer, regular alcohol beer. The hard part is pasteurization. We are pasteurizing in-house. We throw our cans into the mash tun. We have some tools to make sure that we're hitting our pasteurization units, that we're confident. We've gotten some lab testing back to say that there is no microbiological activity happening in these pasteurized cans. We feel safe that we have a shelf-stable product now, which makes Mel happy. So that part is hard because it's a time commitment, and it's kind of just, it's inefficient. And we're looking at ways to maybe make that better. Regardless, though, it's still worthwhile to make it. I mean, it's something that people come for. We have no competition, so we're not overcharging it because we have no competition, but we effectively don't have competition on a local market. And if we could make more in a more economical way, we would, and we would be able to sell it. I mean, this is what my wife and I, we have to decide. We will be deciding soon if we decide to grow this brand more or not. The 10th largest craft brewery in the United States right now is Athletic. I know you've spoken about Go Brewing, and there's Bravus out there, and they're all national, semi-national, regional brands. And then we're this little brewery sitting in the middle of Pittsburgh in a vacuum of, there is no other local non-alcoholic offering. We're sitting in a vacuum that needs to be filled. So we, again, economically, we could kill it.
As a super small local self-distributing brewery, I mean, I've seen your wholesale to other local bars and restaurants for the NA specifically just explode in the last few months. Do you know what percentage your NA versus alcoholic is for your wholesale?
It's probably, I should know that number, but I don't, because it moves.
Sure.
It's probably 25% of everything that goes out for wholesale is cans of alcoholic. Yeah. It's not the 10%. 10% of revenue includes like 5 to 10% of revenue is sort of the total. But when you look at, in wholesale is much lower margins, so like they're much lower revenue percentage, whatever. But yeah, when we go out for wholesale deliveries, it's a good chunk of it is non-alcoholic cans.
Right. Well, we would say those are both pretty impressive numbers. 5 to 10%,
and then the soft part of it is it's great for a brand. I mean, when somebody can walk around with a can at a restaurant or wherever they are, that's just easy brand management. It makes us look great. We're the only ones. So if they're gonna have a local non-alcoholic, it's gonna be a two-phrase.
Yeah, beer. And so many bars and restaurants would rather have a locally made than a nationally distributed.
And occasionally we have to say no to some of the wholesale because we just can't keep up.
Yeah,
it's kind of in that space.
So speaking of, or talking about community a little bit, and we were talking earlier about just the growth of NA, and when you both started this industry, or when you started Mel, this industry really didn't exist, or at least was very, very small.
Mel's helping create the industry,
right? And growing this as it does get bigger. How do you think that's going to impact, I guess, how people enjoy and buy beverages? Obviously, bottle shops like you guys play a huge role in educating the consumer on what these beverages are about and how to shop for them. And we talked about that with Rob at Generation NA and their process of functional beverages and how you explain that and talk to a customer who's maybe not accustomed to that, or for some it might be more of a replacement, and how do you have that conversation with a customer. So as it does get bigger and we see it's getting the attention of the Targets and the Walmarts out there, how do you think that's going to evolve?
So I do have a rather unique geographic advantage over some of the other NA stores, where because we're in Western Pennsylvania, we're in a distribution black hole, or nothing has distribution here, basically. We were one of the last markets in the country to get Athletic in distribution, for example. But like the sachet partnership at Target isn't here because it's Pennsylvania and we don't sell alcohol, and those are in alcohol sections at Target. So I have some advantages, but it has been growing. And just in the past year and a half, a lot of brands have started to get distribution here, which is on the one hand really nice to see that it's becoming more normalized, that distributors are getting interested and starting to open their eyes to it. So for the general people, it's great. For the independent retailers with a very specific specialty, it's definitely about education. It's about brand knowledge and product awareness and ingredient expertise. So at our shop, it is split into half with a big shelf in the middle. One side is the non-alc, the straightforward, the beers, wines, spirits, ready-to-drink cocktails, seltzers, whatever, mixers. The other side of the room is all functional. So, as I say to people, it's anything from the caffeine and iced tea through hemp products, the lion's mane mushroom, adaptogens, everything in between. And of course, that has a lot of follow-up questions. But just having that physical separation really helps people with where to go. We also have everything coded on our price tags with if it's 0-0, if it's pregnancy friendly, if it's vegan, gluten-free, whatever it is. So it's part people can figure it out while they're there, but we're also very hands-on with whoever comes into the shop and talk them through everything. We also have open bottles of most of the spirits available to try at all times because it's all premium products. They're all small brand, almost all small brands, with no basis of what something's going to taste like because it's all super new. And I hope that we're the first time that people interact with non-alc because we're a great way to do it. Yeah. But I hear very often that coming to my store is a very educational experience, a very fun experience. I tend to be very educational. Other people tend to be a little more salesy, which is great too. I will answer the question very directly with more information than you wanted to know.
You won't get that from Target.
Right.
That's true, right?
Yeah, it actually really concerns me as places like Target start to expand their NA selection, particularly on the functional side of things. You know, NA beer, it's an NA beer. You get it. You know, there are certain questions, but you generally get it. If it's something like certain functional brands, there's a lot of stuff there that people aren't going to know before they buy. They probably haven't done their homework. They're probably not reading it until maybe when they're drinking it, sitting on the couch, at best. There's a lot of like possible interactions that can happen with certain functional ingredients. And it does concern me seeing those go into more mainstream retailers. But ultimately that's on the brand that's doing it. But what can I really do about it other than help inform people as I interact with them?
Right. So specifically, I wanted to come back to, who is shopping in each of or I guess, who do you consider your customer? And this would be more directed at Mel, but also just who's drinking NA as well. I mean, the media talks a lot about Generation Z, and certainly they're not drinking anywhere near even millennials or Gen X or boomers. But as we've had these conversations around the country, we're hearing a lot of different stories on who is actually consuming and buying and supporting the category. So I'm curious, how does that look for both of you?
The media does like to say that the NA industry is being propelled by Gen Z, and they are drinking less, but they're also not drinking non-alc very much. Partially because most of them are still under 21, and partially because it's expensive. It's premium priced small brand products that are excellent quality, but maybe less accessible to someone on a college budget. So most of my customers do skew older. I would say over 30 at the youngest. I mean, we certainly do have younger customers, and by younger, I still mean it's an over 21 geared store, and almost everything in our store is 21 or 18 plus. We do have a few all ages options, but our customer base does skew older,
right,
for sure. And I have a lot of senior plus age customers too, because one, the senior population is drastically under discussed in the non-alc conversation, where they're a demographic that can't drink largely because of, just any aging complications with alcohol because alcohol is extremely bad for you. It interacts with medication, interacts with all of those things in the body. But yeah, we have a lot of older customers for sure.
Right. How about you, Mike? Do you see any differences in your NA consumers?
So we have the tap room here, and we do a lot of like wholesale, and we do a lot of markets to like farmers markets and things. So we see a broad spectrum of our community and neighborhoods around Pittsburgh. In the tap room, we see all ages. It's pretty consistently, there is no consistency. It's young people will come in and mix it in because they want to, they'll maybe have a beer with alcohol and then a beer without alcohol. And with the older people will do it too. We see athletes, especially when we make a sour or a goza, the athletes are really into that for whatever reason. So, the run clubs will come through here and they will have a spike in non-alcoholic sales that night because the run club ended here. All generation in the tap room, we're seeing everybody doing it. Everybody either mixing it in or coming here because they don't drink at all. In the markets, we see a lot of, if we're at Bloomfield Farmers Market, especially, we see a lot of people buying the 4-packs for others. For whatever reason, they come to our tent at the market and they'll say, I know somebody or I have a relative or my brother is sober and I'm going to take this to him as a gift. So we see a lot of to-go. And it's not a lot of to go for that person buying it, but it's a to go to share with somebody else. And it's almost like a pride thing. Like I found the local guy making, so like it's an intended gift for someone who would appreciate it. But then I found this thing that you're gonna like. Like it's also like they get excited about this cool gift that they give to someone who has a limited array of gifts that they can get. Like they can't always get local, and so we see a lot of people buying for others. In the younger generation, though, we see a few people come in to buy non-alcoholic and they go home, they'll take it home and smoke weed. A lot of weed smokers that don't want to mix the drugs, but they still want to have a beer, maybe. They'll buy a 4-pack to go. Yeah. Go home and smoke weed and have a non-alcoholic beer. And they come back for it, too. That was fun, I guess. They come back and do it again.
Highly recommend the West Coast IPA for it. Great pairing.
Great state pairing.
It's a little dank, and it would, coming from someone who's never smoked, it seems like it would be a good idea.
No, that's really interesting, and that's probably, truthfully, my question is, I think, a flawed one these days, just because it's not a separate customer. In your case, especially, where you might have somebody comes in and might have a couple of regular beers and then decide to flip over to an NA, and just giving people those options. And like you said, seeing a mix of those glasses at the table.
Even some of our regulars who come in and say, what's the highest ABV on the list? They come in for the purpose of having a nice beer, and then we help them with this. We coach a lot of I'll say coach, that's a weird word, but we encourage a lot of our people who come in to drink the higher ABVs, here's some water or here's some NA. And it comes back to, they'll mix in some NA. Even some of our, I'm making air quotes to say our heavier drinking regulars have started to pull in or start to buy the non-alcoholic beers just because it's the right thing to do. Like they're still here for the social event. They still have a cold glass in their hand with something in it. They still have their brain buzz, but maybe tomorrow will be a little easier because they've mixed in a little bit of non-alcoholic. So even some of our regulars, they're swinging towards this not swinging, that they understand that this is a good idea.
There's a myth about on-premise being hesitant to bring on an NA in their menu because they fear losing alcohol sales to the NA. And I love to dispel this myth. The data is saying that the NA sales for places that are adding NA to their menu are not replacing alcohol sales generally. They're replacing the soft drink sales. So it's really just an extra occasion for the on-premise, the restaurant, the bar, whatever it is, to make more money on the customer.
Margins are better on that than a soda, sure.
Right.
Yeah. Just for myself, if I were out at a restaurant and there wasn't an NA on the menu, which I never expect to see, but honestly, in the last 6 months, even just here, it has really changed the landscape on that. But if there's not an NA written on the menu, I'm just going to get a water. That's great. I love water. Always hydrated. Have 3 beverages at all times. But if there's an NA on the menu and it's something I like, I will absolutely get the NA. And then the restaurant or the bar or whatever is then getting that sale that they weren't going to get from me before.
Right.
And staff will get tipped on it too. Mm-hmm. It increases the total tab for a better tip.
Yeah.
Right. No, I'm glad you brought that up. And you're right. Now that we're getting data, it's exciting. So all these hypotheses that people have can be proven out, and hopefully more people out there who need to hear it will hear it, and it can make both financial sense and people sense, like we were talking about before.
We would love for more people to start making, more breweries to start making this, so that we would have somebody to talk to, and then just, again, perpetuate this. The momentum isn't going to stop. I mean, everybody should be understanding that it's a good idea. And the more people who start making this, the more people are going to start buying it.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a good.
We have had some local breweries and related start making NA stuff, but not NA beer. So there's 3 locally made hop waters available right now. There's a cider. And then I consider local throughout Pennsylvania. So we also have like Blind Tiger in Erie and a couple other brands out of the Erie area or the Philly area. So it's expanding. But for a long time, my local option was Blind Tiger from Erie.
Right.
Which was super exciting.
Yeah.
And still is. They're great. But now we have hyper local, city local.
Absolutely.
Next door neighbors. Soon to be next door neighbors.
Soon to be neighbors, right. Well, my last question, and it's one that we've asked a number of our other guests recently about the future. And I know you're both relatively young businesses, and, particularly in NA, we're talking about a very young category overall. But where do you see each of your businesses going in the next, I'll say 5 years, but I'll let you pick or decide how you want to answer that question.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. I think from where the brewery part goes is, we want to maintain a community-focused neighborhood brewery. We're going to grow our wholesale on the alcoholic side. Hopefully, try to bring in more taproom sales and things like that, but not expand into the second taproom. But if we do any expansions, it'll be through non-alcoholic. I mean, that's the only part of this industry that's growing. The rest of the industry is shrinking. I think our industry data said we shrank 3% again last year or something like that. But, again, Athletic is the 10th largest craft brewery in the United States right now from nowhere. And so that, if we decide to, in the next 6 months, it'll be a decision of whether we go after it or not. Yeah, and then 5 years from now, hopefully we are still making a lot of non-alcoholic. We'll see though if it's regionally. Mel can be our local distro person. No, I don't know. I don't know where we are after about 6 months. We need to make some big decisions in about 6 months really to understand if we're going to chase this not to the business plan kind of model for growth or not. I don't know that answer yet.
Right.
Come back in a year and we'll talk again.
We'll do that.
The pros and cons of how the update after a year. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, 5 years is really hard to speak to. So we're currently 4.5 years old. The Open Road is the country's oldest non-alc specialty retailer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Not the first bottle shop, but the country's oldest non-alcoholic specialty retailer. I like to be specific and accurate. Yeah. So 5 years is hard. In 5 years, the lease that I'm finalizing now will be wrapping up. So that's the whole thing to wrap my head around. But we will have a larger storefront for customers. We will have a larger storage facility with a stronger wholesale and distribution footprint. We do currently locally distribute bars and restaurants for non-alc because, like I said earlier, pretty much nothing has distribution here. So a more formalized and larger scale version of that, for sure. The on-premise bar will have, be a bar that doesn't serve alcohol.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah. So.
Well, we'll have to come back for that, for sure, when you're down the street. And so I really appreciate both of you, both from a standpoint of what you guys are doing here in Pittsburgh for the NA community, which, again, I think is pretty special, even if you may view that more humbly than others might. So thank you for that, and really appreciate you both taking the time to sit down with us today. And we look forward to seeing how the market evolves, but how that evolves here in Pittsburgh. So we'll have to make another trip here to the Burgh pretty soon. So thank you.
Thank you so much for coming today.
And this was fun.
All right. We want to again thank Mike and Mel for their time, as well as their hospitality. Mike and I had a chance to talk before the interview started, and Mel gave me a quick tour of their shop after we wrapped up. Really good people, and we enjoyed our time walking the city later that afternoon, especially the historic Strip District and Point State Park, which is beautiful. Anyways, stay tuned as we have some great new episodes in development coming up, including a couple of New England area NA brewers who are doing some cool things in the category. If you like this episode, don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you listen from. And if you have any feedback for us, please visit us at nationbeer.com/contact to let us know. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, cheers.